This is TWiT.
Tell us a little bit, starting off, about the specifics behind this shooting in Pensacola and maybe what the Justice Department kind of expects to find on the gunman's phone, if we even know the answer to that question at this point.
Yeah, there was a shooting at a naval base in, like you said, Pensacola, Florida at the end of 2019. And what the Justice Department wants is to be able to get into that phone, maybe to see data that they don't think is accessible via cloud backup. One example could be iMessages, right? You can get the messages in the backup, but they're encrypted, so they're not readable. So that could be something that they're looking to get. There's other information like location data that could be stored on the phone itself that's not stored in the cloud. It's very possible that the user, turned off iCloud backup for some specific features. But at the end of the day, I mean, as the story you're showing on the screen right now indicates, they don't really need Apple to get that phone unlocked. There's plenty of third-party solutions in order to do this.
So, so one of my questions has to do with that. I mean, obviously, with as each new iPhone comes out, Apple creates these devices. I would imagine they would like to believe that they're creating them more and more secure with every iteration. Is there a difference between the devices that they were looking at 3 years ago and the security model around those devices versus what they're looking at now? Is it the case that Apple just really is hamstrung and couldn't possibly get the data off if they wanted to, or where there's a will, there's eventually a way?
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago with the San Bernardino situation, we were still more in the infant stages of this type of situation of encryption and third parties being able to break into these phones. But nowadays, it is so plentiful, the amount of companies and contractors and people who are able to get into these things without Apple building a backdoor. I mean, the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 7, those are two of the devices that the Florida shooter terrorist had, and those are older phones. At this point, it's extremely rudimentary to get into them. I mean, one person I spoke to who does this type of stuff, so they can get into the phone in under an hour if they had a 4 to 6 digit PIN code. So this is very simple stuff. I personally find it very likely that the government could have already gotten into the phone if they tried, and who knows if that already happened, right? But it seems like this is a political power play where they want Apple to sort of build that back door, so it'll be easier for the government to get into these devices moving forward.
Yeah, and that kind of ties in with one of my curiosities about this too. I mean, the political landscape is definitely different in many ways from what it was back in 2016. However, the struggle is still there to gain access or to change things around encryption, but the heat is much more on from the government's, the U.S. government's perspective, to do away with encryption. So is this less, would you say, about Apple opening things up and more about making an increased case that encryption for individuals, let's say, needs to not happen anymore? And do you think this is going to go far in kind of furthering that approach?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of things. I think it's more so the government wanting to break encryption in the way where they have the back door from the manufacturers. I don't think they necessarily want or pushing for the companies to get rid of encryption. They just want a password to get past that encryption, right? They have no problem me encrypting my phone so someone who finds it on the street can't open it. But the government themselves, they want to be able to open it. Obviously, Apple creating that backdoor means that this type of technology can get into the hands of bad actors. At the same time, bad actors already have this technology versus companies like, Graylink and Cellebrite, where these things are pretty plentiful already. So it's a very interesting circumstance because I think on both sides, there's the opportunity to, move to the middle a little bit more.
Yeah. Totally. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times Cellebrite. Is it Grayshift or Graylink?
I think I said Graylink, but Grayshift.
Just wanted to be sure. Yeah, Cellebrite, Grayshift. I've heard a good amount about Cellebrite. I'm not as familiar about Grayshift. Do they both operate pretty similarly? They're just basically very tuned into whatever the vulnerabilities might be on any model of, let's say, an iPhone, for instance, and that allows them to kind of market that and sell that to people who are interested in breaking devices. Is that how that works, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, Jason. But there are two parts to this, right? So for Cellebrite, they basically offer two types of software. One is to actually get that phone open. It's to get past the passcode to unlock the phone. The second thing is to be able to analyze the data on the phone. And what Grayshift is able to do is they're able to get that phone unlocked. Celebrite offers a tool to do that as well. But at the same time, you then need the analyzer on top of that, and Celebrite offers that analyzer. And the tool to get into the phone itself is called Celebrite Premium. It's like 150 grand to get that, and then the solution to actually analyze the data is about $15,000 up front, and then about $4,400 a year in terms of a annual subscription maintenance fee.
Oh, okay. So a couple bucks, not too bad. In-app purchase. It's about as much as some toddlers rank up on those little games that they play. So my question for you, are we seeing a repeat of the playbook that Apple used in the past with this new round of Apple versus FBI, or does Apple have some new tactics in the works this time? How is Apple kind of combating this? And again, are we looking at history repeating itself sort of on both sides here?
Yeah, Micah, to your point, I think it's going to be the exact same playbook. I'm seeing the exact same strategies. I'm seeing them say the exact same things. This is the same thing all over again. But I don't think this is blown up in the same way that the San Bernardino shooting blew up back in 2015, 2016, right? That was a much more pressing issue at the time because that was really the first time we were having this debate. I think the company, the government, and consumers are sort of used to it by now. The San Bernardino thing was a really big deal. Everyone knew about that. So I think this time around, it's a little bit more muted. And I kind of, so far, see it kind of dying out. I think the government is going to go into the corner and get this thing done. You saw Trump try to escalate this on Twitter. But we're at the point where, President Trump tweets so many things where putting out a tweet saying that Apple should unlock the phone doesn't really have as much meaning as if it was a previous president who doesn't speak as much, right? It was kind of interesting. Like, you would think the president tweeting that Apple should unlock the phone would be a really, really big deal. But there's so much other stuff going on in the government. There's so much other stuff being tweeted where it kind of just doesn't matter or make as much of an impact as it would have been in previous administrations. So, that might be considered an escalation, but it really didn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah, it gets lost in the noise. That is life in the year 2020. Right. Now, Tim Cook has asked that Congress pass a law that defines the boundaries between public safety and security, largely for cases such as this. And we can understand why he wants that definition. Are we, like, in the way that politics are working right now the last couple of years, in the shadow of the San Bernardino case, are we any closer to that happening? Has there been any movement in that regard?
Yeah, I think we're at a point where this situation is quite a bit different, the San Bernardino shooting, in that it's already happened before. Yeah. But I think that, the constant meetings with the government that Apple's having puts them more so on the good side of the situation. What I'm particularly interested in, not to veer topics, is what happens when you're on a phone that is not as easily breakable as the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 7, right? I saw some news the other day that, Celebrite or the government was able to get into an iPhone 11, but to my knowledge, getting into an iPhone 11, the latest phone, is a lot more difficult than getting into an iPhone 5 or an iPhone 7, right? Just because of all the security enhancements that they've done over the past few years. What happens if the iPhone 12, right, is even more encrypted and more secure, and the government just can't get into that, right? That's going to be the one to watch when there's a time where the government can't get into the phones themselves. If you remember, the government was prepared to go to court with Apple. Apple's prepared to go to court with the government, right? And it's going to be a lot harder of a case for a lot of people if the phones aren't able to get into from a third party. So I think at this stage, Celebrite and Grayshift, those are blessings in disguise for Apple.